well, you're just being nice to them. This is what my father used to say to my mother. You're just being nice to them because you want them to love you in your old age. And she said, of course, that is why I'm doing it. She said, you betcha. She did. She literally said that. She said, you're damn straight, is what she said. Just quoting my mother. Guess what happened? She's old and her children love her. All right, so we're going to begin, I think, with Mr. John Conover.
As you all know, the history of my mom having to go over problems and that, and she was told that they're no longer paying her any more money from getting hurt. So now she has to go through settlement. So her and her husband, my stepfather, they don't work. They are living on Social Security and all that, and they're struggling. What I want to know is how do I fit into that and helping out when I can in that? What is my responsibility?
All right, this is a very, very challenging question, okay? And let me explain why it's challenging. In biblical times, okay, the family would have had something, the family business, whatever it was that the family did, whether it was something like carpentry or fishing or farming or cattle or something, okay? And then if you were the firstborn, you would be given all of that prior to them dying. Like your parents right now are alive, they're just struggling. And that would have been given to you with the expectation you would use it to take care of them and yourself. And any siblings that you might have had, you would have been the firstborn, okay? And so that being said, we don't live in that world. And so they didn't give you something to manage. They haven't been able to manage their own stuff, okay? And so this is, by the way, this is why Social Security, while it may be a good thing in some ways, it's a terrible thing in other ways because it makes people feel like they don't need to worry about taking care of themselves. I'm not talking about the people that can't take care of themselves. I mean, people that should have planned better, kept thinking, well, when I get to 65, I'll just get Social Security, or 62, or whatever it is. But Social Security is not enough, okay? It's not going to take care of you, certainly not very well. I mean, it may be enough if you keep your lifestyle really, simple, but it's just not much. It also depends on how much you worked and how much you made when you worked, because it's based on that, right? It's not just a flat fee that when you get to be this age, this is how much you get. No, it's going to be based on your years of working and what kind of income you made. If you never really made very much, your Social Security is not going to be very much. And so for you, your responsibility is limited, okay, to your means to help them. I don't want you to feel stressed. I don't want you to feel pressured. This goes for everybody, because a lot of the people out here, have older family members that, parents that they feel like, I don't know what to do with them. Do what you can. And let me kind of put a little caveat on that. If they want you to, because some of you want to do a lot for parents and they don't want you to. So don't, okay? You don't have no idea. They're adults, you're adults. Okay, yes, they happen to have been the ones who brought you into this world, but if they don't want, then let them be where they are. That's not for you to force the situation, okay? If they get to a condition where they can't take care of themselves and you can have them declared incompetent, where you can then force the issue of making sure they're taken care of, well, then maybe that's a legal thing you can explore. But you have to wait till it gets that bad. Okay, they are adults and you have no authority over them. And so what is your responsibility? Ask them what you can do and think about what you actually can afford to do, either through physical effort, time, or money to help with what they're doing, okay? And so then do what you can. But as far as obligation, I think the obligation is kind of generalized to do what you can that they're willing to let you do. Okay, what you can meaning that it's not gonna wreck what you're doing either. You have your own life to take care of too, okay? Now, some of you who are younger especially, I think you should go out there and work your you-know-what off so that when your parents get to that condition, you could take care of them any way you want, okay? All right? I'll give you two examples, okay? My mother and my father-in-law who just passed, but before he passed, right? So my father-in-law, not the easiest guy to do anything for, okay? Not picking on him, okay? But you couldn't do things for him. He did not let you, he didn't want you to, okay? He didn't want help. I tried to get him a house so he could live up here, didn't end up wanting it, okay? So, I tried to do what I could for him, but he didn't want it. Now, my mother, on the other hand, has allowed me to then purchase her house so that she doesn't have to worry about it if she ends up eventually in a nursing home or something. But I also help her take care of her bills because she's appreciative of that. She feels blessed that she has children that can help take care of her. I feel blessed that I can do that. I don't think of it as a burden because I'm only doing it to the degree that I can, if that makes sense to you, okay? Okay, but somebody might be like, well, I don't know why you're giving all that money, because it makes me feel good. I love that I can help my mother, who also took good care of me, and she appreciates the help. If you've got a parent that just really doesn't appreciate anything you do, then stop. There's no point of you doing and just getting smacked every time you do. I'm not trying to be mean about it. Just let them know I'd love to help you, but I'm not going to help you if every time I try to help you, you kick me in the teeth. Anybody have parents like that? You know what I'm talking about. Some of you have that kind of relationship. It's hard, okay? But do what you can. Keep offering and do what you can. And so that's, to me, my answer to you, John, is based on your financial situation. And if they need something physically and you're physically capable, go do it, then go do it. Okay, I can't do much for my mother. She's in New York. I'm here, but I can help her financially, okay? I sent my son there, so he helps quite a little bit with the physical stuff. So he lives there with her. So that's kind of been a blessing that way. And he's a good kid, all right? When it comes to being there for her and taking care of her, he does a great job, all right? But the thing is, for all of us, we're all getting older, okay? You know what? I'm gonna tell a little story. This is very short. So as you can imagine, being a child in a house, there are moments where parents get upset with you and they start yelling at you or punishing you or some other thing. And it could be that one parent is nice to the kid and the other parent is yelling and screaming. And then the one parent says to the other, well, you're just being nice to them. This is what my father used to say to my mother. You're just being nice to them because you want them to love you in your old age. And she said, of course, that is why I'm doing it. She said, you betcha. She did. She literally said that. She said, you're damn straight, is what she said. Just quoting my mother. Okay? And so guess what happened? She's old and her children love her. And they take care of her because she earned that. So some of you really think about how you take care of your children if you're gonna maybe need them to take care of you at some point. Now, maybe you did well enough so you could take care of yourself, but maybe you didn't. So, she has 3 boys that are always available to help take care of her because she always treated us great, okay? She always treated us great. And so, yeah, she thought about that early on in life. She's like, yep, one day I'm gonna be old and I'm gonna need them to take care of me, okay? And so think about those things. But I think you also should be thinking about, A, you gotta put the oxygen mask on first. You gotta take care of yourself, okay? B, it'd be great if you had excess to take care of others more than just yourself. Did that answer your question in a long-winded way?
Yep.
All right, good. Anything else, John?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. But that was a great question because a lot of us have either dealt with it, are dealing with it, or will be dealing with this problem, okay? Very few people have 2 parents that both of them are gonna be easy to handle as they get older and need help. You might have 2 that are not very easy to handle, maybe one that's easier and one that's not, but very few of us end up with 2 parents easy to handle, okay? And so this is something that's very common. And even if it's not you, maybe it's your spouse's parents. Maybe your parents are fine, but theirs are the problem. They're hard to handle. So it's a great question.
This is pertaining to Lech Lecha, last week's portion. I notice here in 14 and 18, we're talking about Melchizedek.
Yep.
And I find it interesting that he brought out the bread and the wine.
Yep.
And then it introduces him.
And when you guys have oneg here, who brings out the bread and the wine? I do. I mean, I have a shamash to it, but we provide that.
Right on.
And Melchizedek provided that as well.
Excellent.
See?
That's why I follow you, man. You do it. You don't just talk about it. You're about it. So anyway, but my question is, in this introduction, Melchizedek blesses Abram, and in 20 it says, and blessed be the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies. We're talking about those kings of the previous kings,
Right,
Kedorlaomer and all that.
Yep, the 5 kings.
And blessed be who delivered your
4
enemies.
kings, I guess the 5, yeah.
into your hand. Now he's speaking of Abram, and he gave him a tenth of all. So are we speaking of Melchizedek gave the tithe to Abraham, or Abraham gave the tithe to Melchizedek?
Okay, I answered that last 2 Fridays ago. I also answered it every time we've done this teaching, okay? All right. Look at, again, the flow, and we're reading it just linearly through English, okay? So Melchizedek brings out bread and wine. They have a fellowship blessing, right? They do Kiddush and Motzi, okay? And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abraham, okay? And then after that, Abraham gives a tithe, because then it talks about how Abraham said, I didn't take a sandal strap, I didn't do these other things. He gives a tithe. There's no tithe for Melchizedek to give to Abraham. Nothing has been increased on Melchizedek's part.
Right.
We see that Avram had the increase after the battle. So logic dictates that Avram's giving it to Melchizedek.
All right, the second part of that question then is, did he give from Abraham from what he already had? Because he follows
It doesn't
up
say.
by...
It's simply saying for sure he gave from the spoils of the battle. It doesn't say that he's been accumulating a bunch to give to Melchizedek at this moment, because we don't know how often he interacted with him. This was Shem, okay? Mm-hmm. He may have had quite a bit of interaction with him, may not, it just depends. So I don't know how often he would have tithed at that time. A lot of the ancient stuff is agricultural, and whether it's agricultural meaning plants and harvesting, or whether it's animals and stuff, the increase is at the end of the harvest or when the animals give birth. Okay, which is not every week. Okay, there's seasons for these things, and you would have tithed at those times. So he certainly could have given him a tithe of all in general, okay? But certainly it was of this battle.
All right, then where I'm unclear is where he mentions that I didn't take a strap of leather from you or any of this, but what my men ate, you can give, or what I ate, but give the spoils to the 318 that did the fighting.
Mm-hmm. And again, when we're talking about tithing, okay, I see what you're saying from the point of view of, like, if he didn't take anything but what they ate and what they needed, then he must have been tithing his other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a way to look at it. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But when he says, I've lifted my hand to Yahweh, the Most High Allah, the possessor of heavens and earth, not to take. In other words, I made a commitment. I swore to not take a thread or a sandal strap or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Avram rich. Okay?
And that was my point.
Yeah, but wait. What did he say there, though? I have not taken a thread or sandal strap or whatever is whose?
Yours.
Who's the yours?
The king of Sodom, Sedom, however you say that.
Right, it says, and the sovereign of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people and take the goods for yourself. And Abram says, look, I haven't taken anything that is yours, right? Mm-hmm. Now, but he did say, except for only what the young men have eaten and the portion of the men who went with me. So the portion of the men that went with me, meaning he said that they had something coming to them and he tithed on all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, what they ate, and then there was their portion of the spoils. He said, I didn't take anything personally. They did, but I'm going to tithe on this stuff.
Right.
So,
and I admire.
So you can look at it either way. All right, you could look at it as, well, he didn't take anything, so what was there to tithe on? But he was the head responsible. They were all in his family. He was the head. He's like the papa of the whole thing. So he tithed on what was going on there. Okay?
All right. I admire that.
Wait, hold on, what? Okay, I understand. Okay, so Frederick was saying that, look, he had a pact with the kings. It was the 5 kings there, and that he wasn't going to do any of this stuff. But they may have ransacked or had other stuff that they got as part of the spoils of that. Look, there's lots of possibilities here. The point is, whatever was tithable, he gave it to Melchizedek.
Right on.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Good. And the main point of that is that Melchizedek is not a Levite. So for all of you insisting that only Levites can get tithes and offerings, well then, what's Abraham doing here?
This is inspired by the Hasidon teaching.
Okay.
But it's on some verses.
So you're telling me whatever you're about to say, the devil made you do it? Couldn't resist. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Potentially. But you didn't include these, and I agree with not including these verses in there. But I was looking at them from the essence of or the character of, and wanted to ask if I understood something correctly.
Okay, and they may be in my list of verses I just have not yet covered because I have a bunch that I've not decided if I'm going to cover them or not. So
Okay.
let's see what you got.
The fell from heaven connection from Matthew going back into Isaiah and...
Yeah, that's in my list of things to decide what I want to do with them.
Okay.
So you might want to wait till I'm done before you ask this question.
All right.
No, there's a lot of things that I'm covering the verses that have the word Satan or Diablos in it, okay? So that these are the verses that actually directly address the concept. But there are things alluded to, like when we start talking about Lucifer and we talk about the morning star and all these other things from Isaiah and other places. I'm going to probably cover that, but let's see how it plays out.
Okay. You had gone through the book and I didn't realize you were going. I didn't realize you were going back.
No, but I skipped over things that, the only reason I dealt with the garden, because the garden doesn't mention Satan, but because Revelation refers to it as Satan, that situation being that the serpent was Satan, that's why I brought that out. Otherwise, the garden's problematic to a certain degree because it doesn't actually refer to that interaction as being interaction with Satan, okay? Until we get to Revelation that says that. So I skipped over a bunch of things that are speculative, that have always been understood a certain way, because I want to get to that at the end after making the strong case on the things that literally it does say.
Yeah.
So they are, and that's why I said, I'm probably going to cover these things. I
Okay.
skipped them on purpose. Well, at least I put them to the end on purpose, okay?
Okay. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I'm not going to ignore all the typical verses that people talk about, and refer to as Satan verses, even though they don't necessarily say that, okay? All right, go ahead. Good. All right, but good question. Look, let this be a sort of FYI to everybody. If I'm doing a teaching and I haven't covered something, be patient. I probably will get to it. If I still don't cover it, please ask the question, okay? Please ask the question, okay? Because, maybe I just missed something, or maybe there was a reason I chose not to do that particular reference. But there are references that I know I did tell you I'm going linearly and I'm getting closer and closer to Revelation, and clearly I skipped over Isaiah at this point, but I have it in my notes to go over it, okay? So it's coming after I finish the solid stuff, okay? Because then the other stuff that's more speculative will make more sense after we finish the solid stuff.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. One about yesterday's Parsha.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so chapter 21, Bereshit, verse 10 through 13. Okay, so this is what Sarah tells Abraham, you need to drive her out, the female servant and her son, right?
Right.
Because he's not going to inherit. And then Abraham said, well, he didn't say, but it says, and the matter was very evil in the eyes of Abraham because of his son. Okay, so, but Elohim said to Abraham, let it not be evil, and just listen to the voice of your wife, Sarah. Okay, so I have a couple of questions about this. And I want to understand, I want to get the clear, good understanding from you, okay? So Abraham was not going to do what Sarah, it implies, I don't know if I'm reading it correctly, but it doesn't sound like he was going to do what Sarah suggested him to do. And then he heard from Yahweh saying, yeah, you should do it, right? So my question is, if I'm understanding this correctly, we as wives, many times we'll go to our husbands, perhaps share something, an insight or some idea or something, right, that we think we should do in the family or whatever. And the husband obviously can say yes or no, which is what I think Abraham was going to say no, but he heard from Elohim. So in situations like that, we obviously don't hear directly from him. The husband usually should go to leadership, I suppose, if there is like a disagreement. Can you help us apply that to our modern marriage?
No.
Oh, no? Okay.
All right, let me explain this more.
Help.
Okay, so first of all, there are some unique aspects to this that don't match up with most marriage situations. So first of all, it doesn't say whether Abraham was going to do it or not. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Part of it really was the attitude he was having about it. He saw it as evil. Go back to the evil teaching, okay? So not evil in the conventional understanding of it, but suffering and pain. He loved his son. He didn't want him to be sent out and the whole thing, okay? So he, the matter was very evil in the eyes of, so he saw it in a certain perspective. Okay, so then Yahweh says, or Elohim says to Abraham, let it not be, don't have that perspective. Let them go. Now, he might have let them go anyway, but he was going to see it as this thing and then hold it against his wife, and he was going to have this attitude about it, okay? And so it's not that, this is where I want ladies to be really careful with this. It's not that Sarah was right, okay? It's that Yahweh saw that this would work for what he wanted, okay? So he said to Avram, I can work with this. It meets my purposes. I'm allowing this. I'm not causing this. She's all upset and jealous and everything else, but let this play out. It works in my plan, okay? So I don't want ladies to think, well, she was right and Avram wasn't listening to her and Elohim had to make him listen to her. That's not what happened here. She is wrong. She is way overreacting. She's treating this woman horribly, okay? And she's just not secure enough to accept that, no, Isaac is going to be the one. But she doesn't like the way this woman is acting, because she hasn't had her baby yet, right? So she's all acting. Now, bear in mind, she caused the problem, okay? And so, by the way, ladies, you want a better lesson in this? Take the lesson in, if it played out the proper way, not the proper way, but the way that we would expect normally, she would have paid the price for her own stupidity. She made this bed and doesn't want to lie in it. She created the problem. But then Avram's all upset now because he's probably half of the upset is at her. You made me do this. You wanted the kid through her. Now you're all upset, And so Elohim looks at Avram and says, I can work with this. It's going to be fine. Let it play out. See, this will take some of the strife out of your house. Isaac will get born. Everything will work out better, okay? And so I'm just saying is there's a lot of elements to that. So as far as how this works in your own marriage today, more of the other stuff is what works out. If you're going to go put your foot in your mouth and it blows up, it's going to blow up. Elohim's not going to tell your husband, hey, let it play out, okay? He's going to let it blow up in your face because you caused the problem. You wanted this to happen. Now, he didn't do this to her because ultimately this actually worked as far as he was concerned, okay? So this unique situation, which some of you may be in a somewhat unique situation where Abba may decide to allow for something so that you get your way even though it doesn't really fit the program so perfectly for Abraham or whoever your husband might situation, right? But let's not think about how, well, she was right and Elohim had to make Abraham see that. No, she was not right. Nothing about this is Elohim saying she's right. This is Elohim saying, I can work with this, okay? Go ahead, listen to her, send them away. This will be okay. I can work with this. Does that make sense? All right? So hopefully that answered it a little.
Yeah, I mean, you added a lot more which I appreciate. I guess, yes, you say, you made me, but Abraham said yes at the beginning. I mean, it wasn't like I don't know if he was forced to be with the servant initially when Sarah said, I need a kid.
No, even in the beginning, Elohim said it's okay. He didn't want to do it either. And Elohim said, it's okay. Because Elohim knew the end from the beginning. Okay, if this happens, then this is going to happen, which will lead to these other things. And so it all worked in his plan. It's not the desired plan, because Elohim isn't causing this to happen. But he's like, I can work with this, okay?
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're
okay,
welcome.
I do have a question about blessing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to expand a little bit. It won't take too long, but this week, okay, with me being at home with my kids, and I so much appreciate what you said on the mic when my husband took on the prayer about taking care of us. Is so nice because I do see the covering, and we saw it when he was in Texas for 2 years. So I do appreciate that. But this week, I received something, and I want to say the word receive because I do think it was a blessing. But I have been praying for this for a long time, okay? But I felt like I was getting there and then it wasn't happening. I was getting there and it wasn't happening, okay? And
nobody understands that because none of us do that. We don't have any idea what you're talking about.
okay,
I'm almost there, but then it's not happening. Almost,
Right.
and then it's not. None of us knows what you're talking about.
Exactly. No, I mean, you think that you're getting something that you're praying for, and then it doesn't. You don't fully receive that blessing. That's what I'm trying to say. So, with my prayer, I believe that Yahweh answered it this week. My prayer, I'm going to tell you what it was. I have always admired my grandmother. My grandmother, she was illiterate. She didn't know how to write or read. She was, in my eyes, she was very wise. And she led a life that was very filled with order and organization. She was up early. She was do everything. She had to do everything at home with her own hands. And then at the end of the day, she had a time of rest, and she would go to bed early, and she lived a long life. She was happy, but she would just take care of everything. She was very, very good. And I got into this bad habit of going to bed later than usual, and then my husband was taking care of m.t.o.i in the morning. He wasn't there this week, so I had to get up. I had to force myself to go to bed early, to get up early, and all that. Take a complete change.
Right.
But I praise Yahweh because even though it was hard at the beginning for me to do that, sounds so simple because I've been used to doing that for so many years, I did it. And I praise Him because out of that effort that I put, a lot more blessings came up. And I want to say the blessing came already a couple of years ago when you talk about time blocking. I didn't apply it. So what I did is the response to my prayer was already there. I just didn't take it seriously.
Right.
This week I did. So I blocked the time from the time I got up to my exercise, to working on my business, to taking care of breath, whatever, until I had to go to my office. And my days have been much more productive as a result of that.
Good.
So my question, so I praise to Yahweh for your wisdom, because you started talking about time blocking again a week ago.
Right.
But my question really is about blessing. Is this something that what I should get from this is a lot of it is us not doing what we already know what we're supposed to be doing. Because of that, we don't really see the deliverance, like procrastinate, or just not paying attention to what we're already hearing, and we're not really doing it. Because we're not getting the blessing.
I think part of it is seeing this idea of blessing and just positive results and mixing them together, okay? There are things that you do. Okay, let's just start with blessing. Blessing, we're going to conceptualize as something that is bestowed on you from above, okay? But that's not necessarily most of what happens in your life. Most of what happens with your life is that if you actually start doing things correctly, you are then benefited or blessed in that area by it now working better, more effectively, getting a better result, whatever it is. But we want to often connect that or conflate it together with blessing. We want to mix it together, but it's not necessarily the point. So when you feel like you're almost there and it doesn't quite get there, it's because you may be almost getting there just by default or by accident, not because you did the correct things to get there. Okay? Anybody ever get a really great result doing things wrong, and then the next time you tried it, it didn't work? But the first time you weren't thinking about the fact that you did it wrong, you just felt that it was good because the result was good. Okay? I mean, we've all done things that were not really the brightest things, but they worked. And then the worst thing that happened is we got convinced that it was the right thing to do when it wasn't, just because it worked the one time. Okay? So the one time it worked, you thought, oh, look, I'm blessed. No, it just randomly happened to work for you. Keep doing it, and we'll see whether or not it actually is a smart thing to do. Okay? So don't conflate blessing with just positive results that benefit you. A benefit versus a blessing. Okay? And when He wants to bestow additional or extra on top, that would be blessing. Okay? And a lot of it really is the blessing that if you listen, you get peace, joy, you get a lot of the fruit of the Spirit stuff, okay? Because you're doing the things. Now, the tools to receive that blessing, remember I told you, Torah observance brings blessing. Obedience brings blessing. When I gave you the tool of time blocking, had you applied it, it would have blessed you, meaning you would have benefited from it, okay? That was what gets bestowed on you when you time block is more effectiveness and more stress and less stress and all these other things. It's a benefit, okay? So some things are blessings because they're benefits that are not necessarily coming from above. They're just coming from doing things correctly. And when you do the right things, you should benefit. We call that being blessed, all right? Now, part of the blessing is that Abba put people in front of you that can give you the path to the benefit. Do this, this, and this, or stop doing this, this, and this, and you will benefit. Does that make better sense?
It does.
Okay.
And that's what I noticed also, and I didn't say that, but the peace and the joy and the love and the calm, and like how I saw my grandma, like thinking about my grandma, I actually experienced that this week too. So it all comes together really beautifully.
Okay.
Okay,
look, I have been working hard on, you can see I'm lighter, right? But I benefit from, in my health, the fact that I've lost this weight, okay? And not just because I like the way I fit in clothes. I benefited from physically, my energy is a certain way. I can physically bend down and do things better than when I was heavy or whatever. So there's benefits to the effort I made. Okay, you start all of a sudden walking more because you realize I need to maybe walk 10,000 steps a day, whatever it is. A lot of people doing that these days. And then you realize later there's a benefit. Okay? And then whoever gave you the information and the idea to do it, you feel like they blessed you because they gave you something that benefited you. So it was a blessing to be given that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to, kind of piece together, okay? And so when you're given guidance on how to do something correctly, like take care of your body, take care of your finances, take care of your relationships, take care of your spiritual life, right? If you get some of that instruction, then you will benefit or be blessed. So it kind of has that, together, okay? Just remember that the blessing isn't necessarily always coming bestowed upon you from above. It may have been more indirectly bestowed upon you by giving you the information through somebody so that you had the information, okay?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So chapter 22, okay? So verse 12.
Right.
All right. So it says, I do not lay your hand on the boy and so forth. For now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Okay, so with that, like I was thinking about Job, how he never cursed Elohim. He always, whether he lost everything, even his health, he was very, obedient.
Right.
Like Father Abraham. And so I guess my question is, you said this from the mic, I think a few times, maybe in the past, teachings, that that has to do with like not putting anything before him. Like we're willing to just lose everything for his sake, to follow him, for the Torah, to work on ourselves and all this. That's the example that we should be getting from Abraham, from this portion.
You're talking about Job and Abraham, and they're different, okay?
Yes.
Now, Abraham has had moments and will, where he's got certain doubts that can pop in. And so it's not saying that now I know that you fear me. What he's saying is now I know you fear me above all. Like you were even willing to do something that would be the scariest, not appealing thing for you to do with your son. So he's showing that you're respecting, awe, and reverencing. Remember, fear of Elohim teaching, right? The fear of Yahweh teaching. He's saying, now I know that you fear me above all. In other words, no matter what, you're going to put me first. Okay? Job is from the other side of it. The more Job was being punished by Hasatan, the more Job was like, that's fine, I'm not going to curse Elohim over this. Okay? He's causing or allowing. So with both of them, to some degree, there was an emunah. More with Job, we're saying, he causes or allows. It is what it is. As opposed to with Abraham, it's more of a trust-obedience thing. I don't know how this is going to play out. I just know it's going to be okay. I'm fearing, trusting. So trust-obedience more with Abraham. Emunah more with Job. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay?
In my ongoing quest of seeing my Elohim properly, the lovely Miss Hannah asked a question this morning that I got to thinking about. And her question was, how should we talk to Yahweh properly? Should we be more reverent, I think is the word she said. Can we be too casual with Elohim? And if we get into that habit of being more casual, how can that affect our walk?
Okay, I'll answer it this way. By the way, and so if you guys are never in zone 2, you never get to meet the incredible woman, Hannah, Hannah's down in South Africa, and she's one of our elder stateswomen, and she's fantastic. We love her very much. So yes, here's the problem. If you take the relationship vertically too casually, yes, it certainly can affect your walk because you'll take it less seriously. Okay, the more casual you are with somebody, the more casual you'll be with following or listening and submitting to what they're saying because you're way too comfortable in that kind of way. The point is this: there should be a recognition always of a certain level of respect or reverence or whatever you want to call it. Let's take the word reverence out of it when it comes to people, but just when you're dealing with someone in authority over you, there needs to be that level of respect. Now, you can be casual in an appropriate way. What I mean is this: when my child at 8 years old comes to me and is crying and daddy and everything, it's very casual to some degree, but she's coming to me like a little child expecting me to take care of everything. So that's a casualness that's more intimate of child-parent. But when you're coming to him as an adult, you should have the proper respect of talking adult to higher adult, okay? Which you should do when you talk to the leadership here. If you call and talk to elder, you should talk to him or Rabbi Tom or myself, knowing that you're talking to an adult that you should be offering proper respect to as an elder, okay? Now, when we talk to the Creator, we're talking to the eldest. So the highest level of respect should be there, okay? It's the greatest gap vertically between us and them. You may have a gap vertically that's very tight, just barely above where you are, like maybe elder and me, I'm just whatever one level above where he is. But he respects as he should and always treats me with respect as he should because I'm still here compared to where he is. And so that deserves a certain level of respect, which by the way means that I can get casual with him, but he should be very careful about getting too casual with me, okay? Just like your dad can come and be very casual with you as a child, but you should never forget he's still the authority, right? So the one above can be casual with you, but that doesn't mean you can all of a sudden get too relaxed and easy going about how you treat them, okay? All right? So don't say, oh, well, then they shouldn't be with me. No, they can do what they want. Okay, you want your dad or your mom to be more casual with you from time to time and have fun with you and goof with you a little bit. You just got to be careful of where the line is, which again, as everything I've taught you guys in the last, I don't know how many years, is be much more hyper aware. Just aware. If you're aware, you should be aware of where the line is, okay? So depending on your relationship, maybe Elder and I goof quite a bit, but he knows where the line is, okay? And I don't know that I can tell you where the line is. You just have a feel for it if you're aware, okay? And if that line ever gets stepped over, you should feel, uh-oh. And every now and then that might happen. And then I get an apology from whoever it is that says, you know what? I stepped over it. I may not even have felt anything. So I said, okay, I don't even remember it, but that's fine. But they felt and recognized they stepped over a line. This happens to congregation members. Every now and then will come and apologize for something they said or did where they felt like they treated me too casually, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that the person above needs to be all offended and upset about anything. It's for your benefit to be best able to receive from one above you if you look at them correctly, which is what Vera, your main point was. I've been really pushing this issue of we don't necessarily look at him correctly. And you and I have talked about that in counseling, okay? Struggling to how do I really see him correctly? And so what Hannah was talking about is the same thing. She thinks sometimes she gets to that place where people get to that place in herself where they're too casual and we lose that awe and reverence. So we always have to have that fear, right? Because it says the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of understanding, the beginning of knowledge, the beginning of wisdom. Go back and listen to the fear of Yahweh teaching, okay? But we're also told by the Messiah to come before him and say, Abba, Father. So that's a whole lot more casual in some ways. But when I'm saying Abba, Father, I'm now the child. He's the father. I'm not a man talking to another man and thinking we're on the same level, okay? I'm recognizing I'm now the child, That's the parent. There should be respect. Honor your mother and father, right? The fifth commandment. So we have to have that mindset, okay?
I just want to know if you can kind of give me an insight on this. I've been trying to wrap my brain around it for a while. And you're teaching it like in order to become something, we have to become that. And I'm trying to figure out, because you said there's like no steps to get there, you just become that. And I just can't wrap that around my brain.
Okay, so let me just clarify. I didn't say in order to become something, you have to become something. I said if you want something, you have to become the type of person that has that, okay?
So how do I do that? I can't, like, I've been trying to wrap my brain around it, and I don't understand how to do that, because I know there's steps in between. Say, like, I want to be successful in the business that I'm getting ready to do. So the steps I have to take was go to school, learn much as I can, go out there and do much as I can, and kind of build my way to be that professional.
Yep.
So there is steps you have to get there to become that person.
Well, the thing is, it's a lot of it is a mindset. What does a person in that position that's already there, how do they think? How do they handle things? But it also is a matter of saying, this person that already has this, I want to do what they did to have this. So I got to find out, what does somebody do to have this, okay? Okay, that's kind of like the Wealth Development Club we kind of started, is the idea that we can have people talk about their successes and other people say, oh, I can learn maybe about some methodologies here that might help me be successful, that they were successful in doing something. So it's just insight into things from people with experience. And so if you want to go into whatever business, you should be making sure to gather as much information about how are they successful at it, and what do you have to change in your development as a person to be that person. Because if you're not the type of person yet that can lead or run or handle a business, you've got personal development growth that's needed to just be that, okay? I got a bunch of people thinking, oh, I want to go start a business. And I look at them like, but you're not ready for that. In here, you have no idea yet what that's going to take in you. You might learn some of the mechanics of owning a business. See, I know a lot of people out there think, oh, I could do what Rabbi does. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't think you understand what it takes to do what I do. You might be able to think you understand administrative stuff. You might be able to think that you understand some of the things as far as teaching. But there's so much involved in doing what a person who has something you don't have yet, what they do that you might not understand. So I'm not saying that you can't do what I do. You might not be able to do it right this second because you don't even know what it's going to take yet to do what I do. Do you understand what I mean? So you have to find out, what do I need to grow as a person so I could be the type of person. So I've told you all you singles, all right? You want to be married someday as a wife, married someday as a husband? Become a great husband, become a great wife. Find out the characteristics that you need to be that, okay? One day you might have children. Well, what is it going to take? What type of person raises good? Not that the children are going to necessarily be raised a certain way no matter what you do, but what does it take to do your best job of raising them? Okay, what do I have to do to be prepared? I've told you guys that one day you're going to be a thing called an old person, a retired person. If you're not preparing for it, you're going to have a lot of struggle when you get there, because you have to become the type of person and have the situations all laid out so that when you get there, you're ready for it. Okay? It's about preparing. So when you ask the question, you're a person who's been doing A, B, C, D, whatever, your whole life. Now you're trying to do this new thing that you really haven't done successfully yet. Well, what about you needs to grow, change, and develop so that you can be successful? It's not just the mechanics of the steps. There's things that you need to do, okay, in terms of you becoming that person, okay?
So I asked my uncle. My uncle, he was a professional in his field, HVAC, right? And he's very successful now. He's retired and everything, and I kind of want to imitate what he did because I want to end up where he is. So I called him up, and he kind of told me, you go to school. When you're in school, you want to ask as many questions as you can, and don't worry about the other kids that are complaining and everything, or you asking questions. You want to jump right in. You want to be the first person to actually stand up and do the things in class.
Right.
So you kind of want to get that mindset going. So am I on the right track of, if I want to be that person, this is what I'm doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But also what you have to do, for example, and I know because my son does HVAC also. Look, you have to be the type of person that when you're running your own business, you recognize that you're not always going to have the answers, but you should actually be 100% confident you can find them. Okay? I talk to the majority of people I talk to. Elder can agree with this or not. I'm sure he's going to agree with this. Most people struggle with feeling confident they'll find the answers. Okay? He just nodded, right? That's actually a personal development skill set to have, where you become the type of person. People come to me all the time and ask me things all the time that I have no idea what the answer is necessarily, but I always say, no problem, I'll figure it out. So I just tell them, yes, don't worry, I'll handle it. Because I have complete confidence that I'll figure out how to handle it. And so, Wayne, when you go into the HVAC business, you're going to be faced with a lot of things that happen with equipment that you have to be like, all right, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to figure it out, okay? So it's that confidence that you need to have, and you develop that over time by actually having experience where you've struggled with something and then you figured it out, okay? But that's then gives you the confidence to go out there and try a whole bunch of stuff that you really don't know what you're doing. As you're learning, you'll figure it out. And so that's, again, a personal development thing. I got tons of people that ask me, ask Elder, etc. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to do. Most of what he did and I did, we have similar paths in a lot of ways. We figured it out, okay? That's a personal development issue that you need to have as a business owner. The confidence that you'll figure it out. Also, this is something also that most people don't have. That's why they're not good business owners. Owning everything. You're the business owner, everything's on you. I don't care if it's your employee, it's on you. Everything's on you. Every vendor, every supplier, everything's on you. Most of you have a hard time thinking anything's on you. So how are you going to be that business owner? See, that's a personal development thing, Wayne, okay? You got to have that mindset. If I'm going to be an owner of a business, I got to be able to understand it. Everything's on me, which is what your uncle tried to tell you. When you're in class, it's all on you, what you get out of that class. Ask the questions, volunteer to be the guy to do the hands-on things. Don't be embarrassed to have the teacher say, no, that's not the way it works, and show you how to do it right. Go out there and do what you need to do. Without fear of embarrassment especially, just go get it done, right? So excellent, excellent.
So this question, it sparked from something from Zone 2, I believe it was Miss Elisheva. She was explaining of her understanding what it means to be a servant, and it sparked my question with being a servant in the body. I believe that a servant in the body gives freely without expecting praise or anything in return. However, it's easy to get shipwrecked when that giving is fueled by people-pleasing, the survival pattern that teaches us if I don't perform, I won't be accepted. How can we find the profound balance to be true servants, giving from a place of rest and authentic self-worth? Like, how can I give as myself rather than serving from the deep fear of the people pleaser?
All right, because again, you actually started out with the right definition, okay? We're serving because it's what we're doing for us, not for somebody else. It makes me feel better to serve and do for you, to know I've taken care of you. Not to please you, but that's who and what I am. See, so when you say, you said it half right when you said, well, we shouldn't be doing something to hear the praise and all that other stuff, and that's true. But that's the whole idea of people-pleasing, though. You're people-pleasing because you want to hear them tell you did good. You want them to be happy. You're pleasing somebody. So they're completely contradictory in terms of the approach. Both, my doing it because I want to hear praise, it's the same reason I'm doing it to please you so that you're happy with me. It's the same thing. I have to do it because I'm the one who can do it and you need it. Okay? I do it because I'm the one that can do it. I'm here, you need it, I can do it. Now, that has to still be balanced with, if I do it, is it going to hurt me? And that's where the pleasers get into all kinds of trouble. Because you'll always go towards pleasing and understand that, well, you'll miss the understanding that sometimes if you do that, you continuously put yourself second, third, or last, and that's gonna hurt you eventually. So you have to find a balance. It's important every now and then, whatever the percentage is in your life, to put others ahead of yourself, okay? I want, you want, if I put you first, that's great. Every now and then, though, you have to put you first or you're always gonna feel like have no value. that everybody else is more valuable than you. So you have to find that balance of when you have to say, no, I can't do that. I need to take care of me right now, okay? So a lot of it has to do with, is there actually an urgency in their part? I don't mean like the urgency when you guys call it the urgency line and it's really not an urgency. I mean when it's actually an urgency. Not that the person's acting like it's an urgency, but you actually can evaluate it calmly enough to go, they're having a little fit, but they're fine, okay? I don't need to get involved in their meltdown to try to fix this thing. Right now I'm busy with me. I've got more of an urgency. So it's a balance of what is actually more urgent, okay? What needs to really be dealt with? Do I really need to help them or do I really need to help me right now? Because if I don't ever put the oxygen mask on me, I can't help anybody. At some point that blows up, okay? You've got to take care of you. Self-care is critical, all right? Self-care isn't selfish unless self-care is all you do and you don't actually ever think about anybody else. See, that's where you have to find the balance, okay? So you always have to be, again, hyper-aware of you and the other person and where the energy should go. Should I put myself off to the side for a minute because you need something right now? I do that all the time. So does all the ministry. We always do that. But we also know when to say no. This is not something that you need from me right now. I've got other things that are actually more important to do, more urgent to do, people with bigger problems than you to deal with at that moment. And you can handle this yourself. Some of you think that we're being mean, cold, and everything else when we do that. No, you need to learn the growth of, like what I say to Wayne, learning to figure it out yourself is the best benefit you could ever have. Seeing that you actually have the ability to learn something, okay, and do it yourself. So I want to tell all you people that suffer from out of balance F-I-F-E, okay, back to the letters, you got to take care of that F-I, okay? But if you're too focused on it, you'll never be focused on anybody and care about what anybody else is going on. You only care about yourself. That's the emotional feelings in, feelings outward, okay? But the pleasers is when you try to put that F-I to the side and only focus F-E. I'm like, I got to do what you want. I want to please this person because I'm afraid, I guess to a certain degree of protecting your own feelings, afraid they're not going to like me or they're going to be mad at me or they're going to be disappointed in me, okay? Here's a news flash. Strap in, this is going to be a shocker, okay? Brace yourself. You're not going to please everybody. Brace yourself for the second one. You absolutely will disappoint everybody at some point. Everybody in your life, at some point, you will disappoint them. That doesn't mean that you actually did something disappointing. They will choose to be disappointed, okay? Sometimes you were doing something that was actually disappointing, but sometimes you're not. It's just their choice to be disappointed in you or not be pleased. Because in their selfish moment, possibly, if they're having a selfish moment, they wanted you to do, and you said no. Well, how dare you? Don't you know whatever? All right? If you start off knowing you can't please everybody, and if you start off knowing you're going to disappoint people from time to time, then you won't be afraid of it. If it comes up, you just realize, okay, this is one of those moments. All right? Then you do your best damage control to say, look, I know that disappointed you. I didn't mean to disappoint you, but I couldn't do it because I had to take care of this other thing that was more urgent at the moment, okay? And so they don't have to agree with you ever. You can't necessarily convince them to agree with you. But that's where you are in the situation, okay? And you have to be able to do that, okay? But it has to start off with, as I've said many, many times, being more in reality, okay? You keep thinking people are not going to like you if you don't please them all the time. Well, if that's their basis for liking you, why would you want them to like you? Why do you want that person's affection and being pleased with you if that's the only thing? Because then you're going to trap yourself to always have to do all that. And you can't keep it up because those people are never pleased. You can't please them. Some of you are frustrated to crazy frustration levels because you're trying to please someone you can't please. I don't mean like from moment to moment. I mean, overall, you can't please them. Maybe in a moment, they're happy with you for 5 seconds or they'll be, but they're always looking for things to be disappointed in and frustrated with and not pleased with you. Why are you trying to please them? Okay, be you, take care of them as much as you take care of that balance. And if they are the right person in your life, they'll be pleased with you and they'll appreciate you. And if they don't, maybe that's just not the right person to be in your life. Is that fair? Does that make sense? Okay. Group therapy has begun.
The question, it's something that you've said many times is that we're not very good at treating each other as family. Maybe I'm just not quoting you correctly, so correct me, please, if I didn't understand it. But
if I was to use the world's terms, I think we're perfectly good at treating each other like family, just the way the world treats family. We're not very good at treating each other like family the way Abba would want us to treat people, okay? The Father would not want us to act like that as family. But we certainly act as dysfunctional as anything in the world, okay?
Considering that we all come from dysfunctional families, can you give us some words of wisdom on what we're lacking in? Practically, what are some things that we need to really start improving to help us together? Thank you.
Very simple. Okay, there's a couple of steps that are very simple, though. They're simple in concept, they're hard in actually applying them because it requires you to be honest with yourself, okay, and those around you. First of all, you need to be hyper aware of how you treat people. And you have to be hyper aware of how you respond to people. Okay? Now we'll get to where the problems are. One of the problems is that you have had enough things happen repetitively that you can easily be triggered in those areas. There are things that will easily trigger you because you've experienced them so many times, it becomes an easy button to push. Okay? So recognizing that then requires the next step, which most people will not do, which is then go get help to remove the trigger, to work on the trigger. I know it's hard to find somebody to get help from. I know most of the people out there that seem to be of any good are all coming from a Christian point of view, and you don't necessarily want that particularly, but you don't want a fleshly, worldly point of view either. So it's just hard to know which way to go. I would just go and get whatever point of view it is and try to take the best pieces of it you can out of it, knowing that they're coming from where they're coming from, okay? But if you don't want to hear it in such a Christian package thing, just go get yourself a secular counselor out there. But I know a lot of the secular counselors are the ones who push all of the weird agendas out there, okay? So you don't necessarily want to go there either. But you might have to go through a few people till you find one that's good. You know what? Just start off being an expert yourself by going out and watching everything you can watch on YouTube or wherever else you can find it that deals with your challenge. If you have a challenge with anger, go learn about anger. If you've got a challenge with control, go learn about how to deal with control. You got a problem with boundaries, go learn about how to get your boundaries thing fixed, okay? I mean, the next thing is being an expert in your problem. I've talked about all these things before, right? Be hyper aware. See, most of us are hyper aware of the person that's triggering us. Be hyper aware of yourself and why you're being triggered, what's triggering you, should it trigger you? Instead of just focusing on getting mad at them because they triggered you. Okay, I do this all the time. I need to still work on it. Okay? Somebody will trigger me and then I get mad at them for triggering me. No, don't do that, okay? That doesn't mean that they didn't do something that was not pleasing to you, but maybe the level of reaction is a little or a lot out of control, okay? So I'm not saying that you should just be a doormat and ignore everything everybody does, but maybe there's a better way to react to it. A better way to communicate, hey, I didn't like that, what you just did, but instead of the triggered reaction, okay? The triggered reaction makes it so that we are incapable of communicating in a calm, rational way when you're dealing with challenging things. I said this, last night, or not last night, last week, okay? Last week, I think I talked about it during the Torah study or whatever, that we have this brutal time having an ability to communicate and discuss hard things. What are hard things? A married couple who are talking about stuff that one doesn't like that the other one does, or then the other one doesn't like something the other one does, and this kind of thing. Or dealing with a child with the same thing, an adult child, and you're clashing badly because you can't communicate, because all you're doing is just triggering each other over and over again. And we're being triggered, even after that. If you want to talk about it, talking about it just re-triggers it. Because as soon as you mention whatever it is, it triggers it again. So we've lost the capability to have a hard discussion. Which means hard, meaning it's hard for the person necessarily to talk about what you did to them. It's hard for you to hear that you might have actually done something to somebody. That you might need to say, you know what, I'm sorry I did that. I did it out of a triggered reaction. I didn't mean to do it, whatever. But these are hard conversations to have without being re-triggered. Okay? And don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about, because you've been in a fight, and then when it finally calms down, you go to talk about it, and all it does is reignite the fight. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay? And then you're like, oh, how are we ever going to fix this thing if every time we try to talk about it, it only re-triggers it? It's because the triggers have to be removed somehow. Okay? I don't have the answers to that. I haven't perfectly or even remotely perfectly removed any of mine. Okay? I'm just human, screwed up as everybody else. I have an ability to do this stuff. It doesn't mean I don't have other problems, okay? And so, but you got to figure out what yours are, okay? Now, and if you're talking to somebody and you are triggering them, you might want to be more hyper aware of what triggers them, so that whether you think you should or shouldn't have to make that adjustment, but maybe you have to, at least until they deal with their trigger. Try to be aware of what you do that triggers somebody so that you can make an adjustment. Observe, learn, adjust. Observe what you do and how others react to it. Observe what they do and how you react to it, and learn from it. And then if you are calm enough, try to make an adjustment so that next time it's handled better, or at least a little better. And each time hopefully it gets a little more and more and more better, right? It just keeps improving. Okay, did that answer the question?
Yes, it did. I may have to. I have more questions, and I'm gonna.
All right.
Yeah, later, another time.